everyone, welcome back to another edition of Movies That Move We. Um, Happy New Year, belated Merry Christmas, and Kwanzaa. Hope your year is off to a good start. We're glad to be back. We had a busy holiday. As a matter of fact, I think we only got 2 days to rest when all was said and done. But great holiday for us. Today we are back. We're talking about what had happened was Jamie Foxx's comedy show on Netflix. And I use the term comedy loosely. It felt more like a testimony service. You know, he's just back from recovering from a stroke. What was that, last year or 2023?
It's a couple years ago.
Yeah, but in that he talks about what his recovery was like, and of course he throws some humor in there along the way, because you're not gonna not get a laugh with Jamie Foxx. But there were a few moments where my eyes started to water, because he learned from it. He learned from it, and you could tell. What are your thoughts?
Kind of the same. And it was crazy because I really felt like he didn't have to explain himself. He didn't have to really say too much about it. But I love the way he went about doing it, because it was just, in that moment, it was just him speaking his truth, what he went through, how he got through it. He kind of started it off with, I'm Jamie Foxx. I don't go through any of this stuff. I don't have these issues. Very much like kind of a prideful mentality. But this experience, I think, really humbled him and really kind of brought him back to probably like the more important things in life that really matter. It seems like he really touched a lot on family and stuff too, like how his family and everything was there for him. I really will say, I felt like during when everything was going on, like when it first came out, I loved how his family didn't really say anything, because I was just like, people love, and even with people not saying anything, it was like people always kind of try to find their own narratives and twist things and try to just turn it into something that it doesn't need to turn into, especially when it's revolving around somebody's health.
Yeah.
Celebrity
health.
Yeah, like it's just, and I was having a conversation with my mom about, I think sometimes as people, like the audience, like it's like we sometimes will look at artists and celebrities and things like that, and we kind of like take that human element out of their lives. Like we just look at them as entertainers and stuff, but it's like they're human beings and have feelings and emotions, and
we act like they owe us every detail of their life because we see them on stage or on the screen. And again, to reiterate, the way his family handled that from jump, they shut all this stuff out. He's sick, he's in the hospital, we'll keep you posted. And I remember posting at the time, I was like, may I have a circle that is as tight and respectful as his was throughout this entire thing. Because nobody said anything. Those who knew, those who went to see him, immediately when the media heard, oh, so-and-so went to visit him, they were on him. And they were like, he's doing fine.
Yeah.
And that's all they would say.
Yeah.
So may I have a circle that is that tight if I'm going through something. Because folks like to talk. He brought his eldest daughter, Corinne, opened up the show and introduced him by his official title, Jamie M.F. Foxx. We got kids and everyone else, because I'm not going to say the whole thing. But yeah, she came out. That's how she introduced him. That's how he talked about himself throughout the whole thing. But he also talked about how the experience humbled him because he lost 20 days.
Mm-hmm.
He said it was a brain bleed, which led to a stroke. And at some point, he was out of it. He lost 20 days. He doesn't know what happened, who did it, where he was. All he knows is he woke up in a wheelchair. And he had to allow other people to help him. He couldn't do anything his way. There were other people in charge. And he talked about, what is it, therapist? Holly?
Yeah, the physical therapist, because for a while, it was like he needed help or assistance using the bathroom, but they were also trying to kind of get him up, and he didn't really feel comfortable with that, but, you know, she kind of coached him like, look, this is what we have to do. And even down to his mobility, it was like there were just days where he was just like, I can't do this. And like he was getting real stressed out about it. But it seems like the rehab team that he had, they did a pretty good job with pushing him, because there was a point where then he mentioned it. The egotistical side of him was like, I'm Jaime Foxx. I don't go through this type of stuff. Yeah. I'm not dealing with this right now. Like, I don't want to have any nurses come in here, help me with anything, or help me with my mobility. I just want to be left alone, kind of thing.
Yeah. And Holly sounds like she worked for the military at some point. She might have been a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
But she got him up out of that bed and doing his exercises. And I know people will see him and be like, oh, okay, he's fine. He's great. But he couldn't walk. Don't know how well he was talking coming out of the stroke, but a lot of people don't get back to where they were after having a stroke.
Yeah.
He was dancing, strutting the stage, talking, singing, and sounded like old Jamie. So it was good to see him come back on the scene and come back strong. Now, at the time that he had this situation, he had the brain bleed. He didn't stroke out on set, but he was working on a movie called Back in Action. His co-star is Cameron Diaz. That just came out. Heck, I think it came out the same day, same week as what had happened was. He was working on that set, and one of the things that I remember was they didn't shut down production. They kept on filming. I think at a certain point they had his body double come in, and I think they were just about finished. They had his body double come in and finish some of the parts that he was working on. But I remember people saying at the time, see, these jobs don't care about you, which not really. You know, so you make sure you take care of your health. Make sure you take care of your health. And that doesn't just mean go to the doctors, which you better. But it also means take your vacation time. Don't piecemeal those days. You plan yourself a whole week. Out of all the days that you have to take off, plan yourself a solid week. The work will be there when you get back. That company will survive without you, because they will easily replace you if they have to. They will lay you off and figure it out. You make sure you take care of your health, your physical, your mental, your emotional.
Right.
You know, I don't know if he had particular stress in his life. He didn't talk about that. But this absolutely changed him. I think it would change anybody, but it's a big deal when you stand up in front of a group of strangers and say, this thing humbled me. It's a big deal when you get up in front of a whole group of people and say, you know, I was real prideful and arrogant. You know, so, you know, I give him credit for that. He also brought his daughter, his youngest, Annalise, and she's so shy. She's so shy. her hair was kind of hiding her face. She came on the stage and was about to just go sit on the chair, and he's coaching her.
Yeah.
He's like, this is how you engage with the audience. And he was like, go ahead, turn around, say hi to everyone. And she was kind of like, hey. And she sat down, and he talked about how basically music therapy helped pull him out and bring him back to reality, because she showed up to the hospital and the guitar is her instrument. She sat there and played guitar for her dad. And the piece that broke me up, she was playing guitar, he was singing, and he thanked her on the stage. He was like, thank you for being there, thank you for pulling me out. And she was like, well, you had to make it, because I have dreams of us performing together on stage. Kleenex came out, and I was sitting here dabbing.
I was crying a couple times.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, I don't know, like, that was definitely touching, his daughter coming out and stuff like that. And just certain parts where I saw him kind of broke down, because growing up, I watched Jaime Foxx on TV, like when he was doing his shows and his movies and stuff. And he's always kind of had this very, like, confident and just funny, humorous personality where it's like, okay, like, that's no sweat, like, I'm gonna figure it out. Or it's like, nothing ever seemed like,
hard.
Okay, anything would break him down like that. But to see him even get emotional on stage about it, it was just like, okay. What bothered me was that it was just, after everything came out, it was like so many people online were being so negative, like, about the show to me. Like, people were just making comments about how, like, oh, I feel like it was put on, and I feel like he's doing this for an ulterior motive, or I feel like this was rehearsed, which that was probably the comment that irritated me the most, was because it was like,
you gotta workshop these jokes.
You got to rehearse. Like, he's not only doing comedy, but he's doing music. And he's also bringing someone on stage that is not really
comfortable with the
groomed in that area yet. Like, so yeah, they probably did have to rehearse. Doesn't mean that his story isn't true. Doesn't mean that his feelings towards that story is not genuine. It just means that he had to kind of, like, go over the fine lines of, hey, this is how we're doing the performance, or this is how we're going to do this. But I don't know. I genuinely really enjoyed it. I liked it. I felt like it was a great way to... It was a great way, and it was also his style. Like, it's just him. Like, so I think he did a really good job with it. I think his daughter did a really good job for somebody that isn't
been on stage.
Yeah, and she just doesn't give, like, she's necessarily, like, ready for that yet. It's like she's still kind of in the lab cooking, but she's not ready to be on stage yet. But she still did that for her dad. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the other thing that I felt. This was a family affair. Just like when he was sick, when he was down and out, they surrounded him, his sister, his daughters, they were there. That's what this was. I saw a family, even though his oldest didn't have a whole lot of stage time, his youngest didn't have a whole lot of stage time. Though. Their presence was important, and he made that known. And I thought it was interesting, not to say that none of his bros were around or helped in any way, but he really showed appreciation for the women in his life that stood by him, and made sure the army of media did not come anywhere near you while he was recovering. So again, may we all have people that surround us like that when we really
I also did appreciate how he gave gratitude to God too, because it was like, not only to, I just liked how much gratitude he had in general. He gave gratitude to God. He gave gratitude to the family, but also the medical staff that took care of him. while he was in the hospital and when he went to rehab.
Right.
You know, I think that was really, really also big of him to do, because it's one thing to kind of like tell people what happened with you. It's another thing to show gratitude on all aspects for it as well. And I know some people get a little uncomfortable with God and religion and all of that stuff. So for him to do that was like, yeah, I appreciated that.
Yeah, and I think at least one of the nurses was in the stage because he pointed towards them. But all in all, if you haven't seen it yet, it wasn't his clone on stage.
He was very upset about that.
Yeah, he had a lot to say about people thinking he was a clone. No, it was for real and for true. Jaime Foxx on the stage. But take some time to watch it. I don't think it's a thing where it's just him telling his story and throwing some humor on it. I think it's something we can all learn from and gather from.
Because he was bringing up some points, man. Like,
because even when he was in rehab, Holly, the drill sergeant, had to take him into the larger area and point out to him, while you're sitting here and whining, these people will not be leaving rehab. They're always going to have to do this. If you do this for this short window of time, you get better. You know, and that puts things in perspective. You know, you could have been there in permanent care, but you're not. So check it out when you get a chance. I will be checking out at some point Back in Action.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it next week because we like to space things out a little bit. Next week we will be talking about the movie 6888, starring Kerry Washington. If you haven't heard it, haven't seen it yet, it is about the Black Women's Battalion that was sent to Europe to get mail out for all military members. Okay, they was the post office. And as usual, it was a job that they considered grunge work, and that these black folks probably won't be able to do it well or right anyway. And in usual fashion, we did the damn thing. But we'll talk about that next week. Couple of church announcements. Of course, always like, follow, share, tell your mama, tell your friends about Movies That Move We. You can find us on Facebook. The page name is Movies That Move We. We are on YouTube. We usually share that link for the weekly shows on Facebook. But again, Movies That Move We on YouTube. I am now on Fanbase, and I'm also on the Spill app. I'll be posting shows over there as well. If you want to join me in those spaces, those are Black-owned platforms, and I'm saying that for a reason. You can join me over there and look for me under Nikay Writes. That's NIKEWRITES. Check me out over there. I need friends. But we'll be posting over there as well. So 2 new platforms for you to find me on. And that's all we have for this week. You want to say anything in closing?
No, just I look forward to seeing you all next time.
All right. Well, that's all we have for today. Have a great week, people, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.